on today's episode of Battlegrounds.
A white police officer was charged today with second-degree murder after shooting a young black man during a traffic stop that escalated into chaos. The shooting in April ignited protests and calls for justice. CBS's Drika Duncan has been following the case.
Officer Scher's body camera turns off. It's not clear why, but other video shows the officer taking out his gun and shooting Lyoya once in the back of his head.
I know my rights, and I have seen the officer pull my son over and put him out the car because he said he looks suspicious. That's that bullshit. But he ain't got a traffic ticket.
Was he suspicious because he was actually suspicious, or did he see him suspicious because he is stereotyped to see black males as suspicious because they're driving a car? In Atlanta.
See, there goes the story right
there.
Yeah,
because these stories are things that happen to us, brother. You don't want to hear the stories because the stories are based in fact at all.
Do you know why that is? Because it seemed like when you came on the panel, you just wanted to hear yourself talk.
All right, man. You know what? Thank you. I got a lot to say here. Now, this gentleman that you have on the screen here, I believe this is Nathan, if I'm not mistaken. Just a couple of days ago, I was on a particular channel or show, and I think they had police on there, and he was one of the ones that was a police officer along with other people that were on the show. And I guess what they were trying to do is give a perspective from the police perspective of people who are in law enforcement. And he, and along with those that were on the panel that were police themselves, said some things that I disagreed with. And I got up on the panel, and the way you combat people who are not being honest is you combat them with the statistics. So as long as I stayed in the sort of emotional conversation, that's where people want you to be. But the minute I went to the statistics, they could not combat them. And the first thing I did is I said, well, you're talking about whether black people do the most violence or what have you in this country. And I went to, one of the biggest statistics. I'm using their own shit. The FBI has white people commit 69.4% of all total crime in America compared to 26.6% of black people. Now, the area where we are spiking the highest, and we've got to clean this shit up, is, of course, the homicide, right? But white people were at 45.8%, black people at 51.2% when it comes to homicide. So we have a big problem there where we're hurting each other, inflicting pain on each other. However, I work in the penal system as a therapist, so I see a lot of crime records, a lot of C files, as we call it in California. We incarcerate the most people. And I can tell you right now, there's a hell of a lot of white people and other groups of people that are coming into the penal system, and they're getting locked up for doing harm to their own people. And I live in an area where they have an Asian gang task force. They hardly ever talk about that to you on the news, where they have Asian gangs. And who do they inflict their pain on? They inflict their pain on other Asian people, like home invasion, because they know that most in their culture that Asian people will leave money and certain trinkets at home. White people commit crime. Other groups commit crime on people that they live in close proximity to. I also mentioned that to him, that darn well that one of the reasons why you have crime when it comes to black people is the socio-economic problem. So if you take a place like Detroit or many of the industrialized cities, when black people migrated to those places during the Great Migration, you didn't have all this problem because people had jobs, education, and opportunity. Everywhere black people live, or anybody in an urban environment, no matter what race you are, you're going to have high crime because there's no opportunities. I even talked about the midnight basketball program. These folks weren't ready for the things that I was talking to them about, Brother Chef. They didn't even know about that. I said there was a midnight basketball program all across the country. All right. New York, San Francisco, LA. And what happened during the midnight basketball program is that they were able to bring the gangs together. They also said to be a part of it, you had to have educational and job training and counseling to squash the beef between gang members and people that were out there selling drugs. The midnight basketball program back in, I think it was in the mid 80s or late 80s, was very successful. And what happened in my community that I grew up in is that the police could not meet their quotas because the drug dealers and people that were doing certain stuff, they were off the streets at the midnight basketball program, which had an educational component to it. And what ended up happening, they got rid of that program all across the country because it was too damn effective. So I brought that up to them. Then I brought up the issue of slave patrols, and Brother Nathan that you have on the screen. And I think there were others who said that that was a myth, that black people have been taught this myth about policing coming out of slave patrols. They even had the audacity they even said on the show that most of black people, not just black people, but most of people's views of how they see police comes from us, from the media manipulating us. So now you've got police who are people that are pro-police saying that, well, we're simply being manipulated by the media when we see people like Lyoya and any other brother or sister be killed. We're seeing it with our eyes, folks. We're seeing it with our eyes. Let's not forget what happened in Waco, Texas, Brother Chef. You had a biker gang out there in Waco, Texas some years ago that was shooting it up like OK Corral with another white biker gang. And guess what happened? Did the police kill any of them? No, they were captured alive. You have the white supremacist that went up to Buffalo, New York. They captured him alive, even though he had all sorts of weapons on him and killed black people. So this person in here that's saying that I'm giving irresponsible information. No, I gave responsible information. Yes, white people are being killed, but black people are being disproportionately killed more than even white people still. I stand on facts. You can do the research. You can Google this. You can look at articles. You can look at policing records, the whole 9 yards. It's fact.
Sorry.
No. I just want to say this because this person thinks that I'm just sitting up here talking donuts. I got access to criminal files and I can see criminal data coming out of California where I work at and what's going on in the streets. White people are doing a lot of crime too, but they do not get demonized like we get demonized.
Information, man.
So that person needs to, if that person got a problem with whatever I'm saying, come on up here, click the goddamn link and come up here and challenge my points, because my points are backed up by people who have done the studies. I haven't even begun to open up the other information of shit that I know. So I'm going to stop right there, because information can be powerful, but also the people with weak minds may not be able to handle powerful information, brother.
So let's do this. Oh, you got the sound effects. So now we ventured into territory where we're discussing him. So it's important that, we can't discuss a brother without them being in the room. So welcome to the stream, Nathan Daly. What's going on, brother?
Hey, what's going on, Chef? How you doing, brother?
Chilling, man. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing well, man. I had a busy day, man. I checked you probably about 30 minutes ago, saw you were still on, just coming in late. I appreciate you spreading the message and actually breaking down the video. It's important that, our people hear it, we learn from it, gather as much information as possible, and do our best to prevent these things from, happening moving forward, and what we can learn from both sides.
I have a question. I have a question for you, Nick. Okay, so the way I looked at the video, and when I heard you say that he was out of breath. So, right. and he was out of breath. So when you said that he should have had more, you said he should have had more training when it comes to this combat with no gun and no taser.
Yeah, there's a couple things, and I think this is why I feel like my channel is so important, because a lot of people, we have a particular perception of policing that's not accurate, and it's not anybody's fault, right? It's one of those things where if you don't do the job, you just really wouldn't know, right?
Because I think one of the problems is that, when people when police do take the lives of citizens, particularly citizens who are unarmed, what makes people frustrated is that we don't have any recourse to sue that officer for damages in the way that we can come after that officer directly. Because quite obviously, if I took the life of an officer, And by the way, there's been about a total of 119 deaths right now to date with officers 2022. So officers are being killed out here. Not at the numbers that regular citizens are, but they are being killed. California right now has the highest number of officers that have been killed at around 20 about 8. 24 in Texas is the most, actually, and California comes in at 8 in terms of officer deaths by state numbers. But this is one of the things that frustrates people, because we see officers, not that many officers have actually gone to jail, like gone to prison for taking the lives of people that they have shot who may have been armed. It's not a lot, and that frustrates people.
But that's because the people in power aren't educating the people properly on the law. So if you want to placate to people instead of educate them properly, you can avoid all of that. That's honestly the big problem, because when I see it, I'm looking at things from the law. You're looking at things from morality, from your moral standpoint, your moral code. Morality and law are different. Right. So, and morality is subjective to each person. The law is very finite. It's straight to the point. The law says this, the law says that. Your morals say a lot of different things. And
but
so,
ain't you protect and serve? I mean, if I'm wrong, it's called protect and serve. Is I'm wrong with that? Because when we getting killed, we getting shot in the head. We unarmed people. We getting shot in the head. You using deadly force, but you're supposed to be protecting and serving. Because at the end of the day, I know my rights, and I have seen the officer pull my son over and put him out the car because he said he looks suspicious. That's that bullshit. He ain't got a traffic ticket. He put him over. Mm-hmm.
But to your point, though, that's actually a legitimate reason to pull somebody out. If they look yeah, that, and again, there lies, and that goes back
to me. It says you're afraid for your life because my son is 6'2" and big.
Hold on,
but this is what I would say to you, Officer Nathan. Mm-hmm. Respect to you, brother. But isn't whether someone's suspicious, isn't that subjective? I mean, I could make an assumption looking at you, brother. Let's just say I've got something going on in my head. We don't know what goes on in the head of these officers, or just like you don't know what may be in my head, where you have to protect yourself.
No, you don't.
But, and I don't. But anybody can make an assumption. It's just like when black men.
Hold on. Information man, this is what you did last time when we were talking, right? You make your point, and then you want to add a story attached to it.
No, what I want to say, it's just in the case of when you have black men or black women and we're jogging down a street or we're walking in a neighborhood, and people will assume, a lot of cases, because we're black, that we don't belong there. So as by default, we're seen as suspicious, when then you find out that you didn't do anything. You talk about my stories, brother. I told you a story about what happened to me in Baltimore. Police assumed that I was doing something suspicious when, no, I was visiting my uncle and on the porch had key to the door, relaxing and enjoying myself. And they came up to me because they stereotyped me. So
I didn't hear that story, but
well, yeah, I know you didn't hear that story, but
before you hold on one second. Before you get into that, right? Because
no, I'm stopping right there. But I'm just saying, anyone, based on what's in their mind, can make assumptions as to what they think you're up to or doing, when it may not even be based in fact. It can be based in their stereotypes to you as a person, because people bring all their stereotypes and their cultural conditioning into their jobs, and they project it on other people. That's a fact.
And you're absolutely correct. It's called human nature. And what is your point?
My point being, you said that her son was stopped.
Okay.
Because he was, in that officer's mind, suspicious. You said because the officer saw him as suspicious and that he legally could do that. And I'm saying to you, was he suspicious because he was actually suspicious, or did he see him suspicious because he is stereotyped to see black males as suspicious because they're driving a car? Mm-hmm. Just like Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry got stopped in Atlanta.
See, there goes the story, right?
Yeah, because these stories are things that happen to us, brother. You don't want to hear the stories because the stories are based in fact. Tyler Perry was stopped in Atlanta, Georgia, until they realized who he was. Guess what happened to him? They said, "Oh, we're so sorry, sir," and let him go. You had in Oakland, California, you had one of the Tony brothers who was in his car, and the police pulled him out of the car from the door. And then once they realized that he was a famous musician, now all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry."
The reason why I say the stories is because we're trying to have a discussion.
But the stories are facts. These are things like it's just like I told you on the other show. Black people have the disposition we have towards police because we've had real experiences and we've had family that have had experience. And that cannot be discounted, brother. It's not because of we've been culturally conditioned by the media. The media reinforces a lot of our experiences that we have seen for ourselves, brother. And that cannot be denied, period.
You know, the reason why I made the statement about the stories is because we're supposed to be having a discussion. If you make a point, you have to give a person the opportunity to respond to that point.
Okay.
What Information Man was doing in the last discussion, he would make a point and he'd run off on a tangent with multiple stories and anecdotal experiences and things of that nature. And it takes the conversation extremely off topic.
Yeah. And when I asked you things that were based in data that I brought up on that show, when I got away from the anecdotal experiences and I brought up data, nobody answered my questions that were based in data.
The problem,
period.
The problem, Information Man, is that your recounts of what happened in that conversation are grossly inaccurate.
No, they're not. They're not grossly inaccurate. Didn't I say to you in that what I said today, why black people feel the way they feel about policing? You said that we're being manipulated by media. Yes, media does play a role in manipulation. I did bring up the fact that black men are shot more times unarmed than white cops. I brought up the data. Nobody on that panel, when I asked them to explain that to me, was willing to explain that to me at all.
Do you know why that is? Because it seemed like when you came on the panel, you just wanted to hear yourself talk.
All right, man. You know what? You know what? No, I didn't want to hear myself talk. That's your perception. What I wanted was to get an answer to very important points that I brought up. But what I got in return was everybody trying to tell me what I need to know about history as it relates to policing. And I've already did some more research into it. And what you said about the policing thing was actually wrong, because a lot of those police went into policing that were bounty hunters, not to mention Los Angeles. You know why black people were treated poorly in Los Angeles? Yeah, you don't like my stories, but my stories are based in history and facts, brother.
But that's not what we're.
You know why the policing why police have been so difficult for black people in Los Angeles? Because when black people migrated to Los Angeles and were starting to do kind of well for themselves, and there were police chiefs that were white Bull Connor types, you know what they did? They recruited all them white boys down in the South that were sicking dogs on black people and banging us, that were Ku Klux Klan members. They recruited them up to the West Coast to join the police department in Los Angeles. That's how the police department in Los Angeles got its bones in its evilness. And you know where you can find this information at? It's in a documentary called Bastards to the Party, a documentary breaking down the history of black people in Los Angeles as it relates to policing and also the gangs. So anything that I bring up to you, you say is a story, I can take you to the data and the information where it comes from, brother. But see, that's the problem, is you don't want to hear that because it negates your narrative that we're just manipulated by the media and that cops are so law abiding to us as a people. And they have not been historically.
Are you finished? The problem, Information Man, is that unfortunately, again, the moment I try to talk and have a discussion with you, you cut me off because you feel the need to overtalk me. This is why we weren't able to have a discussion last time on the other stream.
Well, you all weren't honest on that other stream. Y'all said a lot of bullshit to me about policing, and it was a police love fest over there, and I wasn't with that. Period.
Hang on just a minute. All I want to say is Nathan, we've heard our side. Everybody know where we stand on this side of the law, but you represent both sides because you are, in fact, a black man, yet you have been on the other side and you have done the job. You do know the nuances. So based on what Information Man has displayed today, not no other time, not no other conversation, point by point, without interruption, Information Man, I'm asking that you made your points. They sound solid. Let's see if they stand up. Let's give this brother a chance to address them one by one. Speak on what you want to speak on, Nate.
Thank you so much, Victor. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Chef. I appreciate you interjecting as well. And information, man. Before I get on this subject, you're more than welcome to come to my channel. We have the discussion where you can break down everything you like to break down. I don't want you to feel like I'm avoiding any of the questions or your perspectives or any of that nature. I just urge you that when we're having certain conversations, just stay on the topic. That's all. It's because it's a multifaceted thing. It's bigger than a 30-minute hour conversation. And so the reason why I was stopping you on the other show was because I had a limited time on that show as well.
Okay.
And the objective was to talk about police reform solutions. Okay. As you remember, it got derailed significantly because you and another guest on the panel got into a heated debate about something that had nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this out of respect for you. I apologize for any disrespect that I might have put towards you on the other panel or on this panel today. Even if I'm passionate about something, I have enough respect to at least say, hey, I'm wrong here, I'm wrong there. So, and I got to be honest with you too, brother. You comport yourself very professionally, and I appreciate it about you. So I just want to tell you, man to man, that I apologize for any disrespect that I might have given you, and I will hear your point of view. And thank you.
No, yes, sir, and I appreciate that as well. And I don't take any offense to. I know this again, it's a very sensitive subject. And we're all very passionate about it, which is why I volunteer my time to put this channel together to address these things for our people. And so, believe it or not, me and you agree on a lot of things. When we had our discussion initially, you noticed I wasn't pushing back on the data.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that. That's not what we were trying to get into a different conversation. You know what I mean?
Well, brother, what I like to do too, and Chef knows I got to bring him on the show. I definitely am open to having you come on my platform and analyze some of these events, these things as they take place. Unfortunately, when they do take place, I give you an open invitation to be able to give that perspective to our people. If you would like, I definitely would exchange emails with you because you're right. We do need to understand both sides of these perspectives. And you, as being a cop, you're seeing something that, like you said, we don't see normally from your vantage point. So I can respect that. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate that. Good. All right. Smiley faces, everybody. Smiley faces. All right, Andrea, now
stay tuned for round 2 of Battlegrounds.